Don't you know I got the sunshine? Sunshine in the rain. I got the sunshine. Sunshine every day. Sunshine every day. 'Cause I got sunshine in my heart. Got the sunshine in my heart.
Greetings folks, so a lot of you have been asking me about my vocoder setup. If you've checked out my solo music or seen my gigs, I use quite a bit of vocoder and a lot of people want to know how I get the sound. So I'm going to show you what I use and the vocoders that I own and how to get the most out of playing a vocoder and how to set it up. I'm not saying I've got the best vocoders in the world, there's lots of different types, but I'm just going to show you what I've got and how I use it. If you haven't subscribed by the way yet, please do so and click the alert bell. All right, let's get cracking. So I've tried all variations and what I find works best is a sawtooth, absolutely no detuning, just one oscillator, or you can use two oscillators and sync them together for a slightly more powerful sound. Maximum output, attack and the envelope should be very fast, decay maximum, sustain maximum, release minimum, and then the filter should be 100% open all the way. As buzzy as you can make the synth sound, it's going to sound better when you start vocoding it. And with the LFO, I like to put it on the aftertouch because then you can bring it in as a delayed vibrato like a singer would. That sounds great when you start singing with the vocoder. And choose the frequency of the LFO to be like a human voice. It's great because you can bring it in and out then, it makes it much more expressive. And I'd have the pitch bend normally just set to 2 semitones. And I do find some synths sound much better than others, I guess because their basic waveforms are very raw and strong. This one sounds great, the Prophet 5, and the Moog Muse sounds maybe the best of all of them because you can really overdrive the output and you get a very strong signal. That really affects how the vocoder sounds later. But you can work with any synths, just some sound better than others. The only other thing that you can use is a little bit of white noise. When I bring white noise in when we're vocoding, it just makes the lyrics more intelligible. I'll show you that later. Okay, so first up is this one, the ElectroHarmonics V256. This is the pedal that I use on all my gigs and on a lot of my recordings as well. It's quite a cheap price. It's really flexible. They're not paying me to say this, by the way. I bought it with my own money, but it's not expensive and it's rugged, very gig worthy. And the way I have it set is always the same way. I have it on Vox Robo 1. Blend, I have 100% to the right because that means it's just the vocoded signal, not the direct signal. Bands I have in the middle, tone I have in the middle, gender bender I have in the middle. Obviously if you go to the right it becomes all pinky and perky, and if you go to the left you start to sound like Barry White on ketamine. And then the pitch you have all the way up here and then it just tracks the keyboard as you play the keyboard. And you can store the settings so it's always like that. There's quite a few different settings on here to the harmonies and drones and all sorts, but I don't use any of them. They're not useful to me, but if you want to mess around, you can. But I always stick with that one setting and it sounds like this.
You and I, all night, with the music.
Now you can see when I use the pitch bend and the vibrato, I can really get that lovely kind of pro vocalist sound that I can't do with my real voice.
Why do birds suddenly appear every time you walk by?
If you're going to solo with it, I recommend using it in unison mode and you don't get the blur between notes.
Oh,
and the way you use your voice really affects it. The temptation when you start using the vocoder is to just sing the same pitch as what you're playing, but actually you have to listen to how the tone sounds. So for instance, if I go up high on the keyboard, sometimes I'll try and make a lower sound with my mouth because otherwise it gets really screechy up there. So you have to think about what you're inputting in, you know, it's not just like singing, you've got to input what's going to help it sound good. I'm not going to let you hear that raw because you sound like such an idiot, honestly. It's hilarious when you're trying to do this stuff in the studio and they can actually hear your raw voice while you're doing it. But there you go. Have to suffer for your art sometimes. So let me show you also what happens when I put the noise in, as I suggested earlier. You get a bit more clarity.
I want to say something, now you can hear the top end so much better with the sibilance. Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's a fine line because if you go too far, you end up sounding like Night Call Kavinsky kind of.
Here I am on the hill, oh.
Gets a bit rapey. But just a tiny bit of that noise, you get the sibilance.
Yeah.
You got to be careful though when you're doing that live because the more of that noise you introduce, the more likely you're going to get feedback. Feedback is generally a problem with vocoders live. That's why I've started using in-ears with my gigs because I'm using a lot of vocoder. If I've got a couple of wedges really close up, there's a problem with feedback. And there's also a problem from other loud instruments because, you know, if you've got a drummer clattering away in the corner, his sound is going into the mic, same as your small sounding voice, you know, and guess who's the winner? So you've got to stay a bit away from drums and loud sources if you can. So there you go, that's the ElectroHarmonics. My recommendation for live, certainly.
Yeah, we're working, we work for Google, yeah, we're working, not for ourselves, we work for Google, yeah, we're working, we work for Google, yeah, we're working, we work for Google.
Okay, so next up on the bench, we've got this one, which is the Digitech Talker. I bought this a year or two ago because I was working for Purple Disco Machine and I met his mix engineer and he does some of the vocoder stuff on Tino's music and it sounded great to me. And he turned me on to the fact that Daft Punk, this was their chosen vocoder. I think they used some other vocoders as well, but you can hear when you listen to this, it has the sound of Daft Punk about it. So of course I had to get it. It's really expensive now. You can only buy them, I think they're from the 90s. Obviously, it's got an inflated price because of that, because people know it's the Daft Punk vocoder. It's got a couple of disadvantages. One, the latency is really bad on it. The ElectroHarmonics does have some latency as well, but it's just about doable. Puts you off slightly live, but you can deal with it. But this one's got quite a big delay. So like when you're recording with it, you end up having to shunt it back because it's just such a long time lag. And also there's no output for the carrier signal. So if you've got a synth going into it, that's the end of that output. It can't go back out again, which it can on the ElectroHarmonics. And the way I've got my live set up, that's more useful for me. It's got a couple of different tones. The main one is this talkbox setting, which is the Daft Punk kind of setting.
You can hear the sound of Daft Punk straight away. Boo-da-boo-da-boo, boo-da-boo-da-boo.
And you've also got this Nouveau setting, which is a higher sounding voice, basically. Sounds a bit choir boy-like. So those are the two useful settings. It's also got this new wah, which is a wicked sound on synths or guitars. It's just like an auto talk kind of thing, and it sounds great. So there you go, that's the Digitech Talker. Fantastic studio tool, probably the #1 for sound, but not really great for live. So I wanted to dig this one out as well for you because it's a genuine analog vocoder. I brought it probably 30 plus years ago from Turnkey in central London, which is long gone. And I haven't switched it on probably for 20 years. And I was quite amazed. I switched it on, it worked immediately, which was quite impressive. The company is called Freeform Analog Technologies, and it's the PCP 330. Catchy name. And it's quite interesting to check it out because you can really see how a vocoder works. Here you've basically got bands like you would have on a graphic EQ. And I think that's how it works, is the vocoder modulates through the frequencies. So you have to kind of set a balance of the bands to the sound you want. And it's a lot of faffing, to be honest, to get the sound even semi-intelligible. It's got a filter on it and you have to have it almost closed, otherwise you can hear the keyboard. It's quite faffy. But actually, I've been really pleasantly surprised by the sound. It sounds really warm and nice, and it has got a character that the digital one doesn't have, but less intelligibility for sure. Anyway, check it out.
So I sing a song of love for you.
It's kind of cute, you know, it's got a warmth to it. Reminds me a bit of the Air sort of tracks from Moon Safari era, which is no bad thing. Let me scan through the graphics and you can see how it changes the sound.
1, 2, yeah, that's much brighter now. 'Cause I'm here we get more There's my hand down here. 1, 2, yeah. Oh, you quickly run out of lyrics when you're doing this stuff.
And it's got a white noise of its own in here, but it's pretty spiky if you have too much.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yes, you can understand a bit better now, but it hurts your ears.
What can be very cool with these sort of things as well is not to modulate with your voice, but with other sources. You know, you can use guitars or whatever. I'm going to show you with a drum machine because it's quite fun to play chords and have the drum machine be the modulator. So here's one I prepared earlier. I've got an octatrack here and I've got that going into the vocoder instead of the microphone. So that's now going to modulate the carrier, which is the chords coming out of the Prophet. So if you hear the beat, it sounds like this. If I turn that down and turn up the vocoder, you'll start to hear. So that's just the vocoder now. And obviously I can mess around with that with these bands. So there you go, bit of fun looking at vocoders. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know which one you like the sound of. I'd be interested to know what you think. Until next time, adieu.